what's going to make you stand out a lot better, what's going to actually make sure that you are going to get those bookings. At the end of the day, Airbnb is only going to work if hosts that I work with actually make money in their business. Hey operators and investors, look, now if you're interested or have invested in Airbnb business as a host or an investor, or just someone who's actually looking to look at an opportunity on Airbnb businesses or actual stocks, this is the video for you. I have spent nearly 6 years understanding about Airbnb business, working with a lot of operators around the world with Airbnb business. Now look, in today's video, we're going to explore the future and what it means to someone who's about to invest on Airbnb business as an investor, as an operator, or someone who's even about to use Airbnb and the challenging landscape it's going to bring. Now let's just quickly break it down, the key points of the latest earning report that Airbnb has bought. So from what I remember, Q2 revenue, they put around 2.75 billion. Now, 11% increase on year to year. So for me, that says, and also I know that because we probably a big part of their revenue generation, because I know a lot of clients that we work with, some of their property over the 12 months period, imagine if they were doing in a UK market, was doing about £4,000 on revenue every month, times it by 12 months, that's nearly 48,000 revenue from just one property. Obviously the expenses and all that kind of stuff are different, but that kind of gives you a nutshell of how the property investment, actual Airbnb investment is working. Now, while that seems positive, I think Airbnb stock is currently down by 32% from its 1 year's highs. Now, that is a big challenging statement for Airbnb from a stock perspective, right? Especially, what do you think is going on? So I want to talk about the slower growth, because despite the revenue increase, right, with Airbnb, we're looking at year-on-year reporting, and I think in Q2 and 2022, their growth was 58%, whereas now in Q2 2024, it was just 11% growth. So look, it's just a rapid expansion of the Airbnb world at the moment, but it is, for me personally, it is very, very concerning, and also the future and what it holds for the business. But let's talk about the rising costs now. As we know, Airbnb's operating actual cost has been going up. Obviously, more people, more services, more different avenues they're looking at. They're going to hire more expenses into the business because they're deploying that cash and stuff. But what that shows to me is the expenses are growing faster than their actual revenue, right? Which in a nutshell, what's happening is it's decreasing the net income and the profit of the actual business. Now, look, what does this mean for you as a UK host or investor? Now, being in the industry for 6 years, one thing I remember going from is their split fee pricing. If you remember 2017, 2018, it was like they used to charge 3%, and most of the cost was passed over to the guest, and it was such a great model where Airbnb really took off what they did, because the hosts were paying very little or nothing to attract customers to their business, and eventually now they've got different split prices. So the model has always evolved and changed. Now, if you've only been in the industry for the last let's say 2 years, 3 years, you're only going to know what's happened in the last 2-3 years, and nothing, if you study Airbnb as from the initial stage to 2017, it was completely different. So here are the potential implications and how you need to protect your investments. So now let's talk about the market saturation and quality control. Now, Airbnb has over 8 million listings right now worldwide, globally, and that is the record high that obviously as a company they're going to be proud of that. However, the platform also removed over 200,000 listings just because it didn't match the quality control. Now, I think, look, I can only tell you some actionable tip here, right? Because I know one of my clients' accounts actually at the moment not matched to their requirement, and they've closed the account. And it is very frightening that as a business, as Airbnb business owner, and you being an operator, you're heavily relying on those platforms to get you bookings. So right now, look, I guess my simple strategy right now is make sure that your cleanliness are 100%, your guest communications are perfect, making sure whatever amenities you put into your listing is what you offer through your properties. And And lastly, look, if there is an option to go and upgrade your property through very little, or you don't have to spend a lot of money for investment to actually make it look nicer, absolutely do so if you've been operating for years and years. So there are the tips, and especially let's talk about expanding to a new market. Now, this is something I've been talking to a lot of people about, especially myself as well. Look, I'm based in the UK. I've been operating in US, Canada, Spain, Dubai. I've pretty much worked in global opportunity, and that's going back to expanding to a new market. Now, you as an Airbnb host, or Airbnb is currently looking to expand to Latin America and Asia as well. So an actionable tip I can offer right now in this video is think about maybe a co-hosting strategy that you can work with in those markets, because those are the untapped market, right? You can't work, Airbnb can't, as an investor, you can't not just have one strategy in place. You need to start exploring more opportunity, because at the end of the day, look, what I love doing right now as GrowYourBnb is we love helping people fill their calendar. That's the simple strategy that we take, and we have loads of different avenues that we take to make sure it happens. So look, it's another technology opportunity for the business, but also an investment strategy. Now, talking about the technology part, AI is a big thing right now in the Airbnb world, as well as the world and in future of what's going to happen. So one of the things I am thinking right now is how can, for example, Airbnb is already doing it actually, rather than how we do it. Airbnb currently has different AI integrated, such as if you go to your picture for the first time in your listing, it says create a tour. If you press that, it automatically creates a tour and puts your bedroom into bedroom sections and all of that thing. That AI, without AI, it would never happen, and Airbnb used to never invest on it. So the actionable tip is making sure that every time Airbnb is, when they bring on AI or integrated different technology within the software, you must go in and take those opportunities and use them. Half the time, Airbnb operators don't do them, which is so frustrating. They've launched a couple of years ago, they launched a newer version of the platform, and they switched, or had an option for many operators to switch on the newer platform or the newer UI and UX. Half my customers were just sitting there not doing anything. I'm like, look, you need to utilize this, because that's their, effectively, and they're not making it exclusive, but they're telling you you're the first few people that want to use and give some feedback, and and if you do that, Airbnb will work with you to grow. And eventually, the recent video we did with Barcelona, it really showed what Barcelona's trying to do. They're going to shut the Airbnb world, and it's going to obviously in one hand impact the Airbnb owners, and they're not going to, the earnings they had, they're not going to do that. But then I was like, well, why worry about that? You can always do co-hosting. They can move into a different country, or they can live in Spain but do co-hosting, because now they've got a knowledge on how to run an Airbnb business, right? So every opportunity, every challenge is always there, and is always going to bring you more value if you plan it in the right way for the future. So look, the short-term rental market is an amazing market all over the world. I truly believe that. This video for me is to talk with investors like yourself, but also the host that generally watches my video, right? And if you're one of them, you can see in my past video I talk a lot about how to get bookings. At the end of the day, we are the ones that's contributing to as Airbnb revenue. The 18% commission that some of my clients pay on a booking worth £6,000, that's nearly £1,000 that Airbnb makes per booking, right? Without doing anything. It's like literally listing it's a listing platform. My properties are being featured there, and they're making that kind of money. Apart from that, Airbnb doesn't really do anything, right? It's not the support they give you. They're just literally finding guests and connecting it to the host. Hence why, the reason why GrowYourBnb and many of our clients do so well is we do not rely on Airbnb all the time. And also, that's probably the other impact, that Airbnb in coming days will have a lot of different challenges, because people like us, we know that we don't want to rely on Airbnb because they're just taking money out of host for absolutely no reason. So something to think about. Look, from a host perspective, is it important that you look into different opportunity as a co-hosting? So if your investment area is going to have challenging time, think about co-hosting in a different part of the world. It doesn't cost you a lot of money to do do it because you already have knowledge on how to operate an Airbnb business. And secondly, if you're an investor, look, you've got to understand how hosts are currently thinking, because if there's more people in the situation that we are in the UK, right, which are not a lot of operators and hosts are making a lot of money right now, the person that's making a lot of money is Airbnb, and the stock market right now might not be the strongest, but they are making a lot of revenue from the people within the business, the 8 million listing that they've currently got live. So it's such an interesting topic right now for the Airbnb world, both from a hosting perspective and a stock market perspective. And guys, I hope you enjoyed another very simple, maybe a bit thorough video in our channel. I really wanted to give a perspective both on hosting and investing. And look, we want to make sure that people watching our video want to understand if that's the next stage they want to go to, buying stock from Airbnb, there is an option to do so, but it's always making sure you understand when, how, and what time you should do it. So guys, thank you so much for watching another Grow Your BNB video. Please make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and share. And look, we'll be back with another video soon.